Hello everyone, this is part 30 of What If Naruto was told about his Uzumaki genes early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Kankuro looked pained. His face was turning blue, muscles stretched with veins popping. The muffled sound slipping through his lips sounded tired. He was certainly someone wrestling with death. No doubt this was the curse of a poison from Sasori. Naruto knelt down, staring at the man with an expressionless mask. Why did he not feel sorry for the man? It was wrong, wasn't? Temari would be in tears if she saw this. He didn't care. Kankuro meant nothing to him. He was just a brother to Temari. But that still should make him mean something, shouldn't? When had he started looking at things this way? When did he stop caring about anyone but himself? It was long ago. Those days he could sit inside his crappy apartment, hiding in a corner from the glares that made him feel unwanted, the glares that made him feel like he was a monster. The whispers of demon had given him nightmares. Those days when people he thought to be friends only turned out to be traitors who wished him harm. Those days when he could not trust anyone. Those miserably lonely days. It was because of those days that he became what he had become. He had to stop caring to stop feeling the pain. He had to be detached to rid himself of the cold hands that threatened to strangle him with misery. Naruto shook his head and then stood up. Temari would hate him. She was one person he truly cared for. It would be a pity if she were to hate him. He hadn't fully repented for what he did the last time around. He created a clone and had it take Kankuro to the hidden leaf. He stood there motionlessly, waiting for the chakra signature he felt to arrive. After a couple of minutes, Jiraiya arrived at the battlefield, looking slightly worn out as if he'd been running non-stop. You came alone. With Sasuke, but he got attacked by someone. He is handling it and should join us shortly, Jiraiya said before looking around. He frowned. A battle had surely occurred here. And they could be already too late. It did look as if even the Emperor arrived a moment too late. Naruto's expression didn't betray him, but he was a little surprised about who could be attacking Sasuke. Could it have something to do with Shin? If so, then it would be a little problematic. You're late, Gaara has already been taken and his brother poisoned, I have sent him to Konoha. Jiraiya stared at the Emperor. And you didn't know about this? Why didn't you say anything during the summit? Naruto was silent for a couple of moments. That isn't the most important thing, here. We must move to chase Deidara and Sasori. I'm a little disappointed I came in late. I was prepared to defusing all of Deidara's explosives while crushing Sasori's puppets. He then stared. But you are questioning whether I knew about this and just let it happen. That is rather cynical, and offending. I knew the Akatsuki were going to attack, but I didn't know when, and where. I worked with them, so when they stopped working with me, I knew something was up. Jiraiya was not going to call Naruto a liar, but the Emperor could lie. And he did it well. The response was just classic. A carefully worded statement with no gaping holes to leave one with questions. The blonde had no trouble in taking his time to answer. He could stay silently to think about an answer, and frustratingly, he sometimes didn't even bother to hide the fact that he was thinking. There were times he feigned the thoughtfulness. I have no doubt it was not convenient then, but I really doubt there was nothing you could really do. You forget that I know you. Jiraiya said, all but glaring at the Emperor. Naruto did not respond to this. It was not important to have this kind of talk with Jiraiya at the moment. It was all about timing, and this time was not right. They needed to find Gaara first and then they could talk. He still needed to think about who could be after Sasuke. If it was Shin, it would put a whole lot of questions on what that man wanted to achieve. Are you really not going to respond? The Emperor eyed the Sannin for a moment before halting. Why was he even walking? He could simply sit on a boulder and then wait for his clone to report. You have always liked asking too many questions, Jiraiya. I found it interesting then, as it gave me time to practice. The Emperor paused, glancing up for a moment. For now, why don't you shut up for a moment? We will talk once we have done what we have both set up to do. He could leave the man alone in this place and tell him to catch up. But Jiraiya was a lot more believable than him. The cage would not trust his word if he said Madara had returned. But if they saw things and Jiraiya even witnesses the Akatsuki in action, the man could be his messenger. Naruto also didn't want to talk until they have come across both Deidara and Sasori to make them bleed if they could bleed. He turned and placed his right hand on Jiraiya's shoulder before they disappeared into thin air. Jiraiya blinked, feeling slightly nauseated. He closed his eyes for a moment. He didn't have to worry about Naruto stabbing him in the back. He didn't trust him, but he knew the Emperor wouldn't try something like that. Not to him of all people. After regaining his composure, he looked around. The area had no trees. There were a few boulders standing still. It looked like one of those areas with no life. The air wasn't heavy though. It just told him that they were still within the river country. His eyes became wide with shock when they caught something. This was not a joke. He wasn't dreaming. He wasn't seeing an illusion. This was reality. He was seeing Madara Uchiha, sitting on a boulder as if he had been waiting for them. How was this even possible? The man should be dead. He shouldn't look even younger than him. Not unless he was immortal. And that wasn't hard to believe given that there were immortal shinobi within this world. But Madara was not just anyone. He was not like those other criminals within the Akatsuki. He was a man of unrivaled power. A man who stood toe-to-toe with the Shodai Hokage. There was no one as capable as him. Not the Emperor. And not in this generation. Jiraiya remained rooted. This was ridiculous. As confident as he was in his skills, that was not a man he could fight alone. Not in his dreams. Not in his fantasies. Seeing this man, it just spoke for a horrible future. If this was the enemy, then those without hope could start despairing. This was not a man of one village. Naruto defeated 2 cages by himself. What of the infamous Uchiha? Naruto's voice snapped him out of his trance. Madara Uchiha. The blonde was sitting on a boulder, relaxed as he usually was. His right leg was folded, close to his chest with his right arm resting on it. I must say, it is an honor to meet you in person. I only hear stories about you, but to see you person is quite amazing. Naruto. Jiraiya all but shouted. Is that really Madara? There was a bit of fear in the Sanin's tone. Naruto glanced at Jiraiya and then responded with sarcasm before turning to Madara. No, he said. I sense the power of the Gedo Mazo was here. You must have already sealed away Shukaku. Your method is much quicker than what Nagato could manage. Nagato did not have full control over the Gedo Mazo and he didn't know everything about the Rinnegan. He only knew what I told Obito. Of course, a mere puppet cannot be told of everything. Naruto said with a small smile on his lips. Where is Gaara's body? Madara pointed up in the sky with his index finger, but he did not look up. Naruto did. He saw Gaara's body falling from the sky, from a bird. He didn't bother going to rush to catch him. He was dead anyway. Jiraiya rushed to catch the Kazekige's body. Madara looked at it curiously. Naruto didn't seem to care about the Kazekige. And he wasn't on edge for a battle. It was interesting. He also didn't seem to have questions regarding anything. Did he just realize it? Naruto jumped down from the boulder and once more folded his hands behind him. Let us go, Jiraiya. We are not going to fight. Naruto faced the Sannin with an expressionless face. Fight who? That is Uchiha fucking Madara. That man is dangerous, and if he is with the Akatsuki, we are in deep shit. The whole shinobi world is in deep shit. Naruto blinked. He didn't usually hear the Sannin speak in such a foul language. He must be really angry that he wanted to leave without even picking a fight. Was even perhaps thinking that the Madara would not allow him to leave. He was a Jinchuriki and capturing him was the right thing to do for the infamous Uchiha. That is a mere clone of Madara. I will not fight a mere clone. I could use my own clone, but that battle would be pointless. Gaara is already dead and Deidara and Sasori are no longer here. Sticking around here is not worth the effort. Madara couldn't help but chuckle. He'd thought he could test the Uzumaki. But it seemed his pride would not allow him to be tested in such a manner. The blonde certainly didn't care about a lot of things. He'd thought if they battle, he could ask some questions. Zetsu had warned that the Emperor doesn't give answers one needs from him when he didn't want. He disappeared in a puff of smoke. Jiraiya glared at Naruto. No, he hadn't realized that was a clone, but the indifference Naruto showed about Gaara's death was disturbing. This was a Kage and the brother of a woman he wanted to marry. How could he be so indifferent? Gaara's loss would be a major blow to Suna and to the rest of the elemental nations. Of course, the world would be at edge over the appearance of Madara. He was scared about this. Everyone would be scared and action would need to be taken. You knew, he accused. From the way the blonde spoke, he knew Madara was alive. There had not been any surprise there. But then again, since when did Naruto wear his emotions? The blonde almost never reacted to any situation. Naruto sighed. Speak one thing at a time, Jiraiya, the blonde said calmly. The team from Suna are coming this way. We should head that direction. You're not denying that you knew. Jiraiya said. He wasn't going to question how Naruto could sense the Suna team when he couldn't. How could he even tell it was the people from Suna? He couldn't see them from here and no one had given him the message. I didn't confirm it either. Then what is it, Naruto? What is it? If you knew this and withheld it, you have put this whole world in danger. We could have prepared for this. Naruto was suddenly standing in front of Jiraiya. He looked imposing, his eyes cold, chakra leaking heavily. Jiraiya took a step back and almost dropped Gaara. Jiraiya knew the feeling running up his spine. It was fear. It was not voluntary, but it seemed driven by instinct. I'm a little ticked off that I've had to stop my hunt. You see, I dreamt of cutting down Deodara and turning Sasori's puppets into dummies. My hands are itching now. And you are talking to me as if I am your level. We are not, Jiraiya. I have some respect for you as a Sannin, but you don't seem to respect my status. Do you wish for me to show you what true despair is? Jiraiya wanted to dare the Emperor, but a certain voice in him yelled at him against doing it, and he swallowed hard and then remained silent. Naruto smiled and started walking away. They walked in silence for around 3 hours until the team from Suna found them across a small river bank. When they saw them, they immediately rushed to Jiraiya. It was Baki and a couple of Jonin. Chio shadowed them from behind. Naruto just stood from the side, watching the waters. He didn't care about the expressions of the Suna team nor what was going to happen afterwards. Gaara was going to live. He was going to see tomorrow. The anger was pointless. Baki stopped thinking for a moment when he saw Gaara's body. The expression on Jiraiya's face told him that the Kazekage was dead. What was he going to do about this? How was he even going to tell Temari? Gaara had been a good leader. Suna was going to mourn for him. The village had come to love him. It had been gradual, but it had finally happened. He knelt down the ground and stared for a long minute. It was indeed reality. Gaara was dead. He looked up to Jiraiya and asked, Kankuro. He had almost been too afraid to ask. Too afraid to know the answer. He is alive but poisoned. He should be in Konoha by now getting treatment. Jiraiya answered in a measured tone. Baki nodded. At least there was hope there. Chio glanced at Naruto for a moment. A cold and stony bastard. He didn't seem to give a crap about this. The shinobi world does have corrupt many people. Gaara had been turned into a murderer. But now, he was a kind and loving Kage who was loved by his people. Not all of them, some still held grudges. But Chio could not deny that he was good for the sand. That bastard had called her here for one reason only, and it was to sacrifice her life. He didn't care about her and knew the Kazekage was going to die. It made her wonder if he could not have stopped it. Out of my way, she said in a cold tone to the Suna shinobi surrounding the dead Kazekage. When they made way without questioning anything, she moved closer and knelt down before putting her hands on his chest. Her chest had a tattoo. It was a seal put on her with natural energy. They told her it would give her enough chakra to do what she had to do. The moment she died, the seal would disappear. I was wondering why you were coming along. Baki said in a bitter tone. But, it does not say about who told you about this. We didn't tell anyone and yet you were on the move before us. Just shut up and let me concentrate. I'm old. I've lived a long life of regrets. If I can give my life for this young one, then it was worth it. Jiraiya frowned hearing this conversation. There was something curious about what Baki said and it made him look towards Naruto. He was just standing there, motionlessly. His presence had disappeared once more. What is she doing? Exchanging her life for Gaara's. This is Suna's forbidden jutsu. Baki said. At least Gaara would live. Jiraiya wanted to say something but Baki gave him a look. A life for another. A horrible sacrifice. But this was what shinobi did. Many died to save the other. He could not disagree with it. And he would not get involved. This was a Suna issue. He could only see darkness, but Gaara knew he had regained consciousness. He could hear voices around him. There were people. They all felt unfamiliar. Not long ago, he had felt pain. Been subjected to curses and mocking from Shukaku as it was being forced out of his body. He had died then. Or has he not? His eyes slowly opened. The light hurt slightly. He saw an image of a teary old woman. He recognized her. She seemed out of breath. Sweat running down her forehead. He held out his right hand. She took it and leaned down. She tried whispering something but no word came out. Wah! Gaara did not finish. She fell on him. Dead. He stayed there, motionless for a full minute as he absorbed what had happened. Someone lifted the old woman off him and a hand he recognized helped him up. Baki, it is good to see you alive, Gaara-sama. The man sounded relieved, oddly happy even. When had he seen Baki expressing such an emotion? He looked around. The shinobi from his village seemed to agree with Baki. He then saw Jiraiya. The Sannin was here. He had lost that battle. He could not see Kankuro. It made him worried. I was dead then, he muttered. Yes, Lady Chio sacrificed her life, Baki answered. And she did. Gaara glanced at her lifeless body. He had to thank her for what she did. This was great service to Suna. He could thank her for the rest of his life. This was her life after all. What of Kankuro? He is getting treatment in Konoha. Jiraiya answered. It was good that the Kazekage was alive. But it did not change the fact that he lost his Bayu and Madara had it. Gaara nodded. I assume you came to my rescue. I thank you for heeding my call. We did nothing. We were too late. Jiraiya said bitterly. But you came and am I alive? Gaara said. We. Jiraiya pointed towards the still emperor. He came. Somehow, there was a bit of sarcasm in Jiraiya's tone. Gaara shook it off and walked down towards Naruto. Jiraiya followed while the others remained in their location. When we were younger, we once believed that once you were dead, it was all over and there was no coming back. But you and I have both seen death, Naruto said as soon as Gaara stopped by his side. It is an experience I would rather not have. It has cost Suna one of its servants. Gaara said quietly. A life for a life, to those without power, the rules work that way. Naruto answered. I am nevertheless happy that you are alive. Jiraiya, now is the time to ask your questions. Gaara knew those questions had to relate to the Akatsuki and why they were gathering the Bayu. He heard them say something about Madara. It was probably the man who appeared with the Sharingan to extract Shukaku. With how Naruto was saying it, it was likely he had refused to answer any questions before. Just tell us what you know. They mentioned the name of Madara along the way. And there was an Uchiha who did the sealing. Is he the same Uchiha Madara of Konoha? Which would be ridiculous. The man existed in the founding of Konoha. Wasn't it the first shinobi village? The man should be dead now. The story is a long one. Naruto started without answering Gaara's question. But I will summarize it. Not long ago, Nagato went missing after a meeting in Azushiogakur. We knew something had happened. The Rinnegan possesses the ability to bring the dead to life. When he was captured, he was used to revive Madara and then was killed. We didn't know full details, but here we are. Afterwards, we heard the Akatsuki members had gathered and were on the move. Nagato was a leader of the organization before and it had the idea of gathering Bayu, but that is due to manipulation. We came and saved one of our own and then got rid of the manipulators. That is how we ended up using the organization. Who was the manipulator? Madara mentioned Obito. I didn't recall the name then, but I remember Minato had a student named Obito. Ah, yes, he didn't die during the Third War. Well, he would have died, but he was saved and then manipulated by Madara. Obito manipulated Nagato. Your 3 students were doing the peace missions, but Obito, an agent of Madara, wanted the Rinnegan for gathering the Bayu. When you heard that they died, it was the time when Yahiko died. And they changed. Nagato changed and his organization became the Akatsuki. We killed Obito and changed the organization. So all along, you knew about this? Yes. So, Naruto said with a stare. Madara was still alive during the Third War, but you said he was only revived recently, Gaara said, ignoring the staring between Naruto and Jiraiya. He was only keeping himself alive using the statue you saw when Shukaku was sealed. After recruiting Obito, he had him change his name and then sold him his mission. Obito was supposed to continue with it and then revive him when the time was right, but we killed him and thought that was it. Naruto paused before adding. The goal is to gather all Beiyu and revive something known as the Jubi. Jiraiya, you know the stories of the Sage of Six Paths. They say he fought something, that is what the sage fought and sealed away. The Jubi is what you call the originator of chakra. It is nature itself. It can destroy Suna, Konoha and Iwa while standing here. Now the idea isn't to destroy the world. No, but to cast an infinite genjutsu that will trap everyone within this world. Well, you may as well say that this world will come to end, be replaced by a world of dreams. That is about it. That was something big. They had to stop this. Gaara didn't need to question Naruto about his estimate of the Jubi's power. But from how he spoke, it was obvious that he knew the power of the Jubi was something beyond human comprehension, and this was a person who houses a Beiyu so powerful it could level mountain with a swing of its tails. Madara had to be stopped. You sound very serious about the Jubi. I like to say there is no person that I fear. And nothing else. But the Jubi is an existence that I do not need to see. You see, Beiyu can communicate with you, they have intelligence. But the Jubi has none, or maybe it is just unwilling to talk to insects. You would call yourself an insect. Before the Jubi, I am. Jiraiya interrupted before anything else could be said. When we were together and I spoke about the sage, you didn't seem to believe me, nor did you have any interest in knowing anything. But you knew about him and probably know about him more. Yes, I did, Naruto responded with a small smile. I won't say I didn't enjoy it when I had to hold back. But yes, the sage existed and he taught peace. There are a few details. I think I have said enough, I should depart now. Wait, you are not going to discuss how we handle this. Madara cannot be allowed to succeed, and this situation affects all hidden villages. We must take a stand, all of us. I don't deny that, Naruto said, but we will talk some other day. For now, I'm off. Gather everyone and we will talk about a way forward. He vanished without saying another word. Jiraiya cursed silently. He could have stayed behind to answer some more questions. Perhaps he was avoiding that. But they had a serious problem. And they needed to group to get a handle on it. Jiraiya-san. Gaara started. Lingering around here won't do us any good. I will head back to my village and ensure there is calm. I will write to the other cage about this threat. They will be interested since they too have Jinchuriki. This will also put to a test the resolve they have in the agreement we signed at the Azu summit. Hello, Temari. Temari nearly jumped from the chair behind Gaara's office desk. The person had spoken behind her and she hadn't been expecting it. She wheeled her chair around, heart beating fast. With her brother in danger, who knows what could be happening within the village or if someone has plans against this village. She calmed slightly when she saw Naruto. He had that amused look on his face, eyes looking down at her. She turned around, looking away from him before releasing a long tired sigh. Why are you here? I'm not going to ask if that is how you greet me now. I assume that question relates to your brother, the Emperor said. But should you really let your guard so down that I am able to walk into the office and then stand in behind you without you even realizing it? Had she not jumped, she could have pretended to have seen him. But her reaction had given her away. That aside, had he just pushed away the talk about her brother? She was the one who brought him up, surely she knows the situation. If everything was well, he would not be here alone, but her brother would have come with him. But what if he was thinking about something else that didn't relate to the Akatsuki? I'm worried about my brother. Leaving yourself like this seems a little reckless. You don't know who might try to take advantage of the situation. Not everyone is a friend. I think you know that. Naruto lectured. Now she was getting lectures from him. Worse, he wasn't saying anything about what was happening to her brother. Do you know what has happened to my brother? Naruto wanted to give her some details about Gaara dying, but he knew it would raise more questions which he didn't want to entertain. He hadn't come here to talk about her brother, anyway. He is alive, and Kankuro. They are both alive. Well, that was true. Kankuro was a bit out of it, but he was alive. He would live. Naruto had no doubt that the medics in Konoha would treat him. Temari let loose a long breath of relief. Her brothers were safe. They were alive. She didn't have to worry about losing her family members. She wanted to smile and shout something, but she held herself back. The emperor was still standing behind her. Why didn't you come with them? Kankuro is getting medical attention in Konoha, and Gaara is with the team. Besides, I wanted to see you alone, and if I teleported with him, I wouldn't have had the chance. Naruto said with a small shrug of his shoulders. He then moved, placing his hands on Temari's shoulders. How about we leave this office for something private? I have missed you. He kissed her on her neck. I'm busy with work. Do you want me to harass you in the office where other people can see? Define harass. Press you in all the right places until your face is all red and you are all wet. Temari flushed slightly just thinking about it. Madara stared at the place he battled his friend and rival. It had been a great battle. He didn't think he'd ever be able to fight such a battle, not in this generation. There was no one with the strength. The secrets in his body made everything much more difficult for anyone to even hold a candle to. It was boring. He even entertained the thought of bringing back Hashirama, just for his amusement. He could afford that, as long as he had a way out of it. How was your meeting with Naruto? Zetsu asked. Aside from being an annoyance to his plans and having nearly brought it all to nothing, the blonde was truly an interesting person. In another time, he would have made a fine puppet. Interesting to say the least. Madara responded. He immediately recognized my clone and refused to fight it. I knew even if he had tried attacking, he would have just run away, if he had to. Being disrespected. Madara wanted to laugh once more. The Uzumaki was surely a different being from all in this world. He loved to battle, but was not willing to fight a mere clone, even if it was his clone. The logical choice there would have been to fight with a clone as well. That way, it would give him the chance to see your abilities. While also exposing his. Madara answered. With his use of the Sharingan, Madara could dictate the flow of battle. Naruto would surely be at a disadvantage, and the only way to correct it was avoid it completely unless it was a battle to death. He made a good choice while not sacrificing his pride. He thinks much better than Obito. He would have made a good replacement compared to Obito. But at the same time, would have posed the higher risk. He is too rational. He can change a plan at any moment and is only loyal to reason. Evidently. Madara said. I'm interested in seeing how the great nations will respond knowing that I have returned. You're thinking of releasing the clones to go to war. Madara shook his head. War is predictable and I have seen too much of it. Besides, it will not be that fun. Admittedly, crushing the 5 cage would offer some entertainment. And I could test some jutsu before anything happens. I was never able to fully use the power of my Rinnegan and Mokuton because of my old age. Naruto can give you a challenge with that. He has the chakra might. I sensed that. It is almost as much as Hashirama had. And, he had more chakra than me. Madara shook his head. Have you found the Sanbi? Zetsu shook his head. No. But, the Two Tails is within Azushiogakur. I can't get there and I don't think it is a mission that can be trusted to the Akatsuki. We should gather the others meanwhile and then finish with the Emperor. We can merely keep the others locked up. I want to do things in order. Madara stressed those words. Have them move on Iwa's Jinchuriki. I want to see how they react. If they choose to unite, we can gather the Beiyu easily. Shikaku released a long breath when he entered the war room within the Hokage Tower. He hadn't been planning on seeing the walls of this place once more. Not after the war the Empire fought and won. Not after he read notes about the events that occurred within the summit. And he was training Shikamaru to take over the reins as the Jonin commander and Konoha's strategist. Not that he needed help with the last part. Being brought here meant that there was a situation that greatly affected the very security of the village. It was a serious matter. Sasuke, Hiashi, Tsume, Shiba, Inoki, Kakashi, Tsunade and Jiraiya, they were all present in the meeting. The latter was the last to arrive, but he wore a heavy expression and made all realize the situation was indeed serious. We received a message from the Kazekage informing us that he was being attacked by 2 members of the Akatsuki. This is a group that 2 former shinobi from this village once formed a part of Orochimaru and Itachi. Tsunade started in a firm tone. She glanced at Sasuke, trying to see his reaction at the mention of his brother. His eyes only narrowed while the rest of his face looked blank. He was trying hard. Jiraiya and Sasuke were dispatched to provide support to the Kazekage and his brother. Along the way, Sasuke was stopped by someone else who has no connections to the Akatsuki but called themselves Uchiha. But are they really Uchiha? I thought Sasuke was the only other Uchiha alive. Sume asked curiously. I cannot say they're Uchiha. What I battled were clones. But they used the Sharingan. I don't know where they got them, but they all used the Sharingan. They wanted to kidnap me, for what reason, they did not say, and I could not get it out of them. However, I did manage to get out of them that they were the ones who attacked the Sound Capital. Everyone seemed absorbed the news silently. Kakashi wondered how they would react to the real reason they had been called here. He had faced his shock already. Jiraiya had informed him about Obito, and quite honestly, he had been left paralyzed for a moment. How could that kind Obito turn out to be the one behind a criminal organization? How had he even survived and changed that much? But that is not the real reason you were called here. There is something sinister that is happening with the collection of Beiyu. And the person behind it all is none other than Madara Uchiha, the very same man who co-founded this village along with my grandfather. I don't have to explain to you how that changes everything. Hiashi frowned deeply. Not Madara. Certainly not Madara. That was a person you didn't want as an enemy. The Shodai has been hailed as a god, and the only one person who could rival him was Madara. How was he even alive? How certain are we? I saw him with my own eyes. And Naruto confirmed that it was indeed him. He also explained why he was gathering Beiyu. Jiraiya answered in a serious tone. How is he alive? Inoki asked. From as far as we are concerned, he died in his battle against the Shodai Hokage. Even if he survived then, he should be dead by now. Not even an Uzumaki can live that long. Hiashi tried to reason. Not unless he was immortal. But if he was so, it would only make the situation very dangerous for them. How did you fight someone who could not die? The Emperor says he was revived not long ago. Jiraiya said. It was a special jutsu because he looks to be in his prime years. Did you fight him? No. It was a clone that we found, and the Emperor refused to fight a clone. Arrogance. Sasuke would have recklessly attacked the clone with an attempt to destroy it with one hit. But admittedly, he was interested in seeing the infamous Uchiha. And of course, that was someone he could test himself against. Itachi's eyes gave him power, and Madara was now the only other person with the M's. But if he is gathering Beiyu, this doesn't affect us. We won't get attacked in that. Do we have to worry? Inoki asked. It is not that they are hunting the Beiyu that is worrisome, but what they plan to use all that power for. Let us be honest, even if a normal person were to gather all Beiyu, they would become an international threat. But this is not just anyone. It is Madara, and he can do it if we blink. Shikaku said. I assume the Emperor shared the reason for this. They plan to revive a beast called the Jubi. Naruto says with its power, they will cast an infinite genjutsu on the whole world that will affect everyone. Is that possible? Inoki asked Sasuke, a bit worried now by what the Toad Sage had just said. It is called Infinite Tsukuyomi. Sasuke said. He had read about in the stone tablet. Naturally, he was not going to share that. By giving you the name of the jutsu, you surely know it is possible. But just how much power does the Jubi have to be able to put everyone in that genjutsu? It is so powerful that not even with the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan can break it. And once you are trapped in it, there is no escape. Not unless someone from the outside breaks it. But I don't know how. It was a bleak level of information. And, Jiraiya could not help but fear for the end of the shinobi world. There are still many details that are left out. I believe the Emperor only told you what you needed to know. He didn't even explain why, revive, the Jubi. It seems as if the Jubi existed before the Beiyu. Shikaku said. But that isn't the main point. We have to stop this from happening, and the only way is to protect Jinchuriki and stop Madara. Can we even trust the Emperor? We don't have to trust him. You know what happened to the Kazekage? Shikaku asked. We were too late. The Emperor was there before I was. They'd already captured Gaara and poisoned his brother. The Beiyu inside of him was extracted and he died as a result. But someone used a forbidden jutsu to revive him. The Kazekage is alive and well, but Madara has successfully taken his Beiyu. Then we indeed don't need to trust the Emperor. We know that the Akatsuki are hunting Jinchuriki. And the Kazekage has already lost his. Jiraiya-sama has seen Madara, at least his clone. There is a threat there. Not to mention that the Emperor is also a Jinchuriki, he too will be in danger. I have already sent a message to the other cage explaining the situation. But the threat is too big even for us. And we don't have any Jinchuriki with us. That is why as we wait for other cage, we must be on the lookout for any members of the Akatsuki. Sasuke and Jiraiya along with Guy will be ready to fight them. Tsunade said in a firm tone. We don't know anything more about Madara and or if he has an army. But, we must be prepared for war. That is the reason you are all here. Another war. Shikaku hoped that it didn't come to that. He really didn't want to fight another war. And he hoped his children never had to witness the horrors of war. They had heard what happened when facing an improbable situation. The Emperor and Nagato had massacred thousands of shinobi from Iwa and Kumo. It could be them dying in a battle against Madara. We must get more details about this. Shikaku said. At least we know that the Two Tails is with the Emperor. So, Madara will have to face him. For those with trust issues, this will be the chance to see what he does. Temari had shed a tear seeing her brother back alive. Naruto had said he was fine, but seeing him made her feel alive. Her happiness was now real. She didn't have to simply trust in Naruto's word. Being her brother, Gaara was back to work. Do you really have to get back to work immediately? She asked with concern. Was there any reason he should not work? Gaara didn't think there was. He thought sitting at home would simply be making excuses and he didn't want that. Not with the current situation. It is not as if a part of me is not functioning. Gaara said. We can say the village is not in threat because they have already taken the bayou, but it does not change the fact that there are enemies out there who are a threat. Temari sighed. As expected from her brother. She had to worry for him since he didn't want to worry. But there was nothing she could change there. I'm just happy that you returned alive. He had died. Someone had to be sacrificed for him to live. Gaara was not going to overlook it nor forget about it. This was something he would take to his death. It cost a life for me to be rescued. Gaara said. And they would have to honor that life. He would ensure that Chio was remembered as a hero of this village. I wonder if it also cost a life for Naruto to return from the dead. Because there is no doubt he had died. Some time ago, when you died, you died. But these days, people were coming back to the world of the living. It was almost as if death no longer had a meaning, to certain people of course. For them, it was something to fear. For him to escape death, someone had to die. It was a life for a life. But that was okay. It would be unnatural if people could be brought back to the world of the living on someone's will without any sacrifice. He is never going to tell me anything about it even if I ask. Temari said in a bitter tone. She hadn't passed the message when he came. Next time she wasn't going to miss the opportunity. Business and pleasure cannot be mixed, or sir, he says. When it is convenient, Temari said. The man was a hypocrite. But, she still liked him anyway. What is going to happen? Gaara wondered about that as well. He was trying to think about it. At least he hadn't lost his ability to control sand. He was still the same person even without Shukaku. Maybe some people were going to underestimate him now, but Gaara had never depended on transforming to win a battle. He could still win. But against the Akatsuki it was going to be difficult. Those were S-rank shinobi and it was not just in name only. They had the power. There was also Madara. That was going to be something to see. He'd never thought this world would see such a threat, but there it was and they had to conquer it, for them to have a future. There was no future if they could not defeat the former Uchiha leader. And it was in this battle that they would need Naruto. Even though he was a Jinchuriki and would be in danger if he fought against Madara, not having him fight would be flirting with death. The Emperor was perhaps stronger than the cage. Who could match him in battle now? In this generation, he had no equal. Perhaps Sasuke could do something now, but it did not change the Emperor's position. We will try to have all villages cooperate to deal with the Akatsuki and Madara. But I think fighting Madara will be a job for the cage. And of course the Emperor. Still, Gaara wondered if Naruto had not known about the attack. The blonde was cold and logical. If he had known, he may not have taken a different approach. Temari was silent for a couple of moments. But, will the others cooperate? I hope they will. Gaara said. Even if they don't do anything, we might have to go on our own. Of course, the Emperor will be there and Konoha will also be there. You have returned, Yoshino said as he entered Naruto's office. He then glanced at the right where Karen was sitting. He smiled at her and chose to sit in front of her. Karen. See. Karen started, glancing at Naruto. No one even calls me Her Majesty anymore. This is your fault. Naruto shrugged. You're not Her Majesty. You should be learning to calm yourself, Karen. Too much stress is not going to be good for you in the coming months. We don't want an angry child coming out of you. I wouldn't complain, at least he'd be angry at you, not his mother. Naruto stared at Karen for a moment before responding. You know I am going to choose who will succeed me, right? If none of your children are worth the throne, I will select another child from someone to sit on my throne. My throne. You'll still be alive. Yoshino laughed. That is a good one, Karen. He said. Would that be a good option, Your Majesty? I and the others know anyone can become the next emperor. Will they not fight for the throne? They'll fight for it either way. If Karen only bears one child and he or she turns out incompetent, someone might decide to rid of him or her to get the chance. They must just know that the throne is mine, not theirs, and I can abolish it before I die. That would be extreme. If I ever sense there is such a battle for the throne, I will do it. Not now, of course, if I punish those who misbehave. Karen stared at Naruto. He would not have one of his own children killed because they are causing instability within the empire, would he? Tell me, if my child ends up fighting with others for the throne, what will you do? If the fight gets bloody. First of all, it is your children who will not have a home. What is that supposed to mean? The children His Majesty will have with Princess Kiyuki will lead the snow. Shizuka is for Nadeshiko and Mei is for Kirigakure. Temari is for Sunagakure. Omegakure will always belong to Nagato and Konan. But if they choose to die without a child, we will choose someone from that village to lead it. What about the Sound? The Sound will have a couple of villages and it will be the largest. But it won't be controlled by just anyone. I believe His Majesty will make Haku's and Guren's families the ones in charge of the Sound. Haku will of course control political things. I think his role will also see him grow to become the second most influential person within the empire, that he can even take decisions without His Majesty. Your children will run for the throne, but as His Majesty has said, if they are not worth it, they might be left with nothing. Yoshino explained lightly. That is a distant future. Naruto said. But a worrying one, for my future at least. I am nothing and my children can become nothing. We don't do birth rights. They will know. They don't have anything to claim. All belongs to me, not them, not you or anything. Not even the clan. I decide what happens, Naruto said in a hardened tone. Shukaku was taken and those people will most likely come for us. We must be ready to move out soon to protect this place from an invasion. For the love of his home, Naruto would do that. Yoshino admired Naruto's love for his clan. He could argue with anyone that the only thing Naruto truly loved with everything, it was his clan. Is everything completed at the compound? It should be soon. Naruto responded. I hope we move out quickly. Have Yugito warned about the situation before it gets out of hand? She must know what is coming for her. Of course, Your Majesty. Yoshino said. I'd come to discuss Miyuki, but we can have that conversation another day. Was it not important? It can wait. Sound. Haku leaned in his chair and stared as Yugao walked into his office. I hear you've been trying to see me. Yugao nodded and settled down. It had been slightly frustrating since she came here, asked for the man to see her, but she would be turned away. She couldn't even budge in. Not with the request that she had. But she had been patient and finally, she was seeing this person. She saw Guren coming here every now and then. It did seem that the two shared a very good friendship. You've been busy. I've been holding meetings with merchants for the supply of certain goods to this city. We also have people coming here looking at the buildings. Some are looking to buy and some just want to see. There is much to be done. This was like a new place. People would come here. They were coming here, but not in the same scale as when the trains are running. When is the first train going to run anyway? In 2 or 3 weeks. It will be coming from the wave and then make a stop to the rain. Haku said before asking. Interested? I am. Yugao said with a nod. I have never been on one. But, we are using them in the wave. I'm not in the wave, and when I went to a zoo, it was through teleportation. Haku nodded. What do you want, Yugao? I understand that you were sent here to work. His Majesty did not specify on which role, but still something worth your skills. I was an Anbu in charge of guarding the Hokage. I have been Anbu since I was a child. I come with a wealth of experience, far more than Gurren. I can be of use within this country's shinobi system. So, things were coming to this point. Haku did know that his kindness would at times lead him into failure. This job was teaching him that sometimes he had to harden his heart in order to get things done. Of course, his reaction to conflicts will always be diplomatic, but at times, he had be difficult. I read your file, the one that says for Hokage eyes only. Yugao didn't like hearing that. It was such information that should not be available to these people. At least she hoped that the things the Sandaime asked her to do were not in the file. Haku smiled. I cannot say they were not there, he said, as if reading Yugao's mind. But it was a report made by the Sandaime. The current Hokage does not have it, or maybe she does. Who knows? I am given to understand the Sandaime Hokage worked systematically. In any case, are you applying for a job? Yes. Doing what? Leading who? Nobody knows you are from Konoha given your Anbu history. So it won't matter, Haku said. I just want a job that will see me being tested. Why did you not go to Gurren? She doesn't like me. Neither do you like her. Yugao smiled. Fair enough. But, I cannot get anywhere with her because she does not trust me. That is a pity, but you'll have to resolve it with her. Of course, if you cannot, I can give you a job close to me. But you must earn it. You must show me what you can do. I know your file, but certain details can be overstated or written falsely, Haku said in a firm tone. Speak to Gurren and then we will talk. She controls all shinobi matters. And don't go to the Emperor when he comes here. He needs not be disturbed by things that we can solve. Of course. Good, Haku said with a small smile. Go to Otogakure, check how things are coming. Gurren has been having it turned it into a proper village. You'll find her there. Speak to her about your concerns and then come back with a report. And there must be effort. And let no one see you. What do you mean by that? You are a former Anbu captain. Infiltration should not be impossible for you. Infiltrate Oto, and then speak to Gurren, but first explain to her that I sent you. If I get caught, you're afraid she will have you killed. Yes. Haku took out a small piece of paper and wrote something before stamping it. The is the seal of approval not of this office but of the Emperor's right hand. My word carries as much weight as the Emperor's. When I say something, it should get done, unless the Emperor says otherwise. If you get caught, show them that. Yugao looked at the small piece of paper. It was a pass. A key to be anywhere under the name of Haku Yuki. Can I keep this? Haku shook his head. No. And don't try to keep it. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.